morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
I love you, I love you, I love you.
I love you, I love you, I love you.
I saw some people dancing and someone getting to the chair and telling the person is leading, probably the wife, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's wonderful. And I saw the wife smiling. We can do something, my dear wonderful friends. Like the person who went to the sea and told the wife, I love you, I love you, I love you. And he brought a smile to the face of the wife. Let's see how these kind of events can affect our readings, or our lives, and the Word of God today. We have this saying, when you see something, do what? Say something, right? If you see something, say something, right? Today I want to share with you the same kind of acrimony about like a twist of it. When you see something, do something. When you see something, do something. I don't know how the readings affected you today. I don't know what you heard in the readings. But I heard about someone in the gospel, according to Jesus, a certain rich man who was feasting sumptuously from a very wonderful, costly banquet with all the wealth around him. And he had a poor man at the door. And the poor man was so much concerned and dependent on God that he's so comfortable with just eating from the strap, from the table of the rich man. And the rich man was so negligent that he couldn't even do anything. The Bible described the position of the poor man in such a way that the rich man could have seen him, because he said, a poor man named Lazarus, who is always sitting at the door, and he had the dogs licking his straws. So that sight is so much dominant that anyone who cares would see. And this rich man never cared. He saw something but didn't do something. By the way, the man Lazarus has no connection with the Lazarus Jesus raised from the dead. This is just a name in the character of the story. And it means God helps. That's the meaning of the word God helps. Just like Eliezer, who means God helps. And when you see the description of the man Lazarus, you will see how helpless he was in the story. He was very hungry. He was not concerned with what is going on, just the strap. And for him to have the strap, he had to depend on God. He would see things and see what he has been hungry of. See food, but very hungry. But it depends on God. And that's why nobody is able to help him, to the extent that dogs were licking his sores and nobody cared to take away the dog. And so his whole life depended not on human beings, but on God. The rich man did not, at the end of the story, suffer just because he has riches. Nor the poor man Lazarus enjoyed at the end of the story because he was very poor. No. It is because of the fact that the rich man has something. He saw something, he has something, and he couldn't do something with it. The poor man, not because he didn't have anything, but he was not complaining. He depended on God to solve his problems. He had opportunity to be cursing everybody, to be talking and then causing confusion. He never made a move. He was just there at the doorpost praying. And so he took his position to heart, dependent on God. That was why he could not suffer at the end. Not just because he was poor, or the rich man could not suffer, was suffering, not because he has riches, but because he didn't do something with what he had. And you can find easily the connection and the reason for that in the first reading from the book of the prophet Amos, when he said, "Woe to you, complacent in Zion, the people who lie in a very costly bed of ivory, and they relax complacently and comfortably on their couches." Watch the descriptions. They feast from the lamb of the flock, and then from the cows of the stall. They make music. They devise their own music according to David and choose their accompaniment. And they anoint themselves with the highest costly oils. Everything is on the extreme extravagance. And at the same time, after anointing themselves with the costliest oil, they didn't just drink from ordinary cup or glasses. They were drinking wine from the bowl well. So they have abundance. But then, they never felt ill at the collapse of Joseph. So they had everything. But when Joseph was in problem, that's the descriptive analysis of the whole thing. So their problems, according to Amos, was not from the fact that they were having their life filled of enjoyment. But they were not balancing it. They saw something, they couldn't feel anything, they couldn't respond to anything, they couldn't do anything. Despite all their feasting and relaxation, which had offered them opportunity to see when there is a problem in the house of Joseph. And they didn't take notice. And that is why the Lazarus, the rich man in the gospel, saw something. Had all the complacent and everything he had. Remember he said dressed in a purple garment. Very costly garment. But could not see a poor man whose sores are licked by dogs in front of his doorpost. And that's why I say, the problem is that they saw, couldn't respond, and couldn't do anything. My dear friends, and that is why at the end of the gospel, at the closure of the gospel, when he now realized his omissions, he made a request that God has to send someone, Lazarus, to go and see him and inform them of what could happen after they have mismanaged their opportunities. And God has a reply, very importantly, that if they were not able to see the prophets and Moses, if they see someone from the dead, they will never, at the same time, get notice of what they need to do. And what does it mean? Moses stands for the law, the prophet, who always reminds them of the mercy of God, of what needs to be done. And Moses is there as a figure to remind them the rules and regulations of God. If they paid no attention to the impending mercies that are around, they can never be affected by the collapse of Joseph. What does it mean? They can never notice, they can't believe someone who comes from the dead, because they have already evidences of the need for proper responses. My dear friends, that's why I say that going through all these scriptures, I come to realize that when I need to always consciously, following the words of St. Paul to the Timothy, to pursue righteousness and put up a good fight for the faith I have. I need to compete well for the faith. I need to search always for righteousness. And I could do that, combining all the Gospels, by using my positions to do something. By using the opportunities that come my way to do something. By not looking away on the need that is always everywhere. It is not about material things. Like when I was coming in the morning, before the end of the mass, I was saying hi to a whole lot of people. Someone here may be so traumatized and concerned by what is going on that he doesn't believe in anybody anymore. You never know who is here that the neighbor doesn't talk to. Nobody talks to him. And when you come to the person and say, hey, how are you? You look so good and beautiful this morning. And the person will like, what? Somebody somewhere may not have smiled at you. And that's why a simple gesture of kindness would mean a lot to someone. Because we never know whoever that is smiling, what is going on deep down the person. Not everybody you see that is smiling is fine. And so a little kindness can go a long way. And at that point, my dear friends, you have an opportunity to do something at any given time. It may not be physical money. It could be gestures. Sometimes you become so close to someone that you may not even notice when the person is not happy. And when you notice, what do you do? Do you feel like, oh, come on, no, but that's how she behaves, that's how he behaves. Every time, one problem or the other. You can't push somebody God has placed in front of you to help away just because you feel she always fights, he always fights. You be demanding from people, but you never know and care how and what they are feeling. If you miss your position and the opportunity to do something, that opportunity, some other person will take it to do something, and yet you will be irrelevant. And then at the end of the day, you will be judged like the rich man. And myself will be judged like a rich man, like the rich man in the gospel. I want to borrow a leaf, my dear friend, from what happens in the scripture in the book of Esther. I don't know how many of us are very familiar with that story of Mordecai and the Esther. Esther, of course, we know, is a Jewish woman married to the king. And there was a decree that the Jews would be killed. And Mordecai, who is very close to Esther, was trying to mourn against that and react and protest against that. And Esther was so concerned that he has to send messages to Mordecai to inquire what was going on. You can see this in Esther chapter 4 and 3 to 4. And eventually Esther found out that what was going on. And she was trying to convince Mordecai to stop and face his business. And Mordecai said no. And then warned Esther. Very important for us today. If you don't take good use of your position, God will still send another person to do something you ought to have done, and you will still become irrelevant. At the end of the day, you will be killed and your relatives at the same time. So the best thing you have to do is to take opportunity God has given you. Who knows that the reason why you married the king is for this opportunity? And the rest, you know the story. Esther reacted, saw what Mordecai was saying, and responded positively. He saw something and did something, and the whole story changed. My dear friends, you can change a whole lot of stories by just responding to what you see. In the masses, we say when you see something, say something. But this time around, because you may not have anybody around that you have to talk to, you have to do something. In the masses, we say when you see something you don't like, call someone and say something. But this time around, the Bible is telling us, when you see something, instead of calling someone, start doing something. I want to share with you a little story about how I come to become a priest. I have shared this story a little with people. I came to become a priest today from being an altar server. And we had a new parish, just like Elizabeth said, Elizabeth or Holy Cross, right, was taken away, was carved out from St. Joseph. The long and short of the story is that the bishop was coming because the bishop visits the parish every year, all the parishes. So it was our first time. And so we got ready, prepared, ironed our clothes like young boys, and get our sneakers ready, as little as we could have. You know what happened? We got to the altar, dressed up, ready to show off as those who knew what they are doing. Some guys came from the back door and kicked all of us away. And we were like protesting, and we were informed that it is their right and their prerogative to serve. And who were those guys? Seminarians. Because seminarians are at some level of their lives commissioned either to read as lectors or to serve, carrying candles and all of those. So when the bishop comes, canonically, it is their prerogative. And so I started asking questions. Who on earth can kick me out of my position? Who are these guys? How many heads do they have? They have one head, I have one head. And so because all of us have one head, I'm going to be doing what they do, so that when I come back home next time Bishop will come, I will kick people out. No matter how depraved my intentions were, but that wasn't good enough for me to see something. I did something, and I'm here today. That's the beginning of the story. I entered the seminary when I was very tender. After is that grade 4 or grade 5? After the primary school. I did one year in, is that grade 6? The first year after elementary school. And then because of this intention, I had to drop back again. To start grade 6 from the beginning. And from there, I spent about 17 years in the seminary. Struggling and kicking people out on the altar when the bishop comes. You see that? And today I'm here. I came from a very poor family, coupled with the poor environment of Nigeria and every other struggle we had. So my father, nobody could have ever known and noticed him. But wherever he goes, because I look like a smart priest, right? So I need to make waves wherever I go. And so wherever my dad in his poverty will go, and he will say, "Who are you?" He will mention his last name, and everybody will say, "Are you related to Father Vitus?" And my father will look like, "Yes, he's my son." And the whole environment will change. What do you want? What do you want? Come on. Yeah. Hey, come on, this is the father of Father Vitus. He said, "What? Hey, how are you, sir?" And that's it. Who could have noticed him? And the story continued. I came here today, and you guys helped a whole lot to give us a water tower that is changing our community. If I didn't go there to do something because I was kicked out, my community will never get that. Nowhere on earth will my community get that. See that? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. Because I saw something and did something. I could change the community by one singular decision. You could change the fortune of a whole lot of people by one singular decision. That's why I was always interested and kicking everything I need to kick to make sure that all these young sons and daughters and grandsons of us come to serve God at the altar. When they are coming up, they're not going to be priests, but you never know how God will influence them, because show a child the way of God and leave the rest Right? Your grandson or your son and daughters will be the president of America tomorrow. And he or she will do well just because of starting from climbing these steps. You never know where God is calling and how God is going to influence the life of everyone. And someone at home may be listening today to the word of God today. And someone is out there waiting to know what is going to happen. You can change a lot when you see something and do something. Don't forget, whenever you see something